Ryan. I'm super excited about our conversation today. Partly because when I've been working out recently, I'm listening to the Joe Rogan podcast far too much. So it gets me pumped up for what we're going to talk about. But before we get into the brand, tell me your franchise story. How do you even get into franchising? I think that sets a good tone for where our discussion is going to go.
Yeah, it's actually a really good story. The Fertitta brothers and Dana White, were friends with Mark Mastroff, who was the original founder of 24 Hour Fitness and CEO, and also one of the founders of UFC GYM. Mark was an avid UFC fan from UFC 1, became friends with the Fertitta brothers, and they shook hands, years ago, in the early 2000s, 2005 kind of range. And they got together in 2008 for a meeting after Mark had sold 24 Hour Fitness and started, his new venture, which is New Evolution Ventures, is basically a private equity firm for the fitness industry. They met, and the concept was really, really simple in a way. And it was Dana White was as passionate as he is, just saying how, the MMA athlete is the best trained athlete in the world. And no one just knows it yet. And it's not basketball and baseball and football and hockey and soccer. It was clearly that. And so how do we get the average person, right, like us, to train like a UFC champion, right? Not to get in the octagon and fight, but just to become the best version of themselves and train different, right? Different than, what everybody else was doing at the time, which was, equipment and cardio equipment and weights. And so we that's where that handshake ended, and UFC and New Evolution Ventures shook hands, and they started their first location in Northern California. And it was a company-owned store. And right at the end of 2009, December of 2009, proof of concept, 4 locations. 2012, 4 locations were doing fantastic, and community clearly loved it. And that's where franchising came about. And we purchased LA Boxing at the end of 2012. And so right at the beginning of 2013, with the purchase of LA Boxing, started franchising.
That's great. And for you, what's your journey in franchising look like?
Yeah, I have been with UFC GYM for quite a amount of years now, since 2015. And I came aboard when we really started, expanding both domestically from a franchising standpoint. We had a couple of years under our wing, and then we started also expanding international. And I had experience with Mark Mastroff and Adam Sedlak, our current CEO, with 24 Hour Fitness. And so they brought me over to help with the expansion, the global expansion that we're currently doing now.
That's great. So with the depth of the brand name, how does that change franchising? And I'm going to ask it in 2 ways. One is, I would imagine it changes the qualifications process, because everyone and their brother can get excited about UFC, and then you say, okay, here's the capital that you need. Even though you're a low startup cost, it's still going to be plenty of human beings that can't afford this. So does it work in both ways, like good and bad, that you have a good brand, but you also have tons of people that can't afford it?
Well, yeah, 100%. Yeah, it works for sure both ways, because we have extremely high capitalized individuals that want to be a part of it, especially internationally. Because when we expand internationally, we got to master, territory, that really is basically the franchisor for that country. And, they open up 20% or so of their own stores, and then they sub-franchise out the other 80%. But, we definitely get a younger generation too, of individuals that maybe just graduated college, an avid UFC fan, growing up on UFC, that, are excited and trying to figure out what they want to do. But, when you bring the reality that you still need some liquid, and you need some capital there to to fun, that usually ends there. But hey, it doesn't hurt though to keep on, creating that word of mouth brand awareness that we are a franchise organization. So
what does winning look like for you in growth? What's the definition of goals? What do you want to accomplish from a new franchisee standpoint?
yeah, good question. We're currently developing in 40 countries with 900 plus locations in development. Now, some of that development is out 10 years because, if it's a large country like the UK or India that are planning to do 100 locations, it's gradual over those 10 years, where some of the smaller countries might, be developing in the next 5 years. So that's where we currently are at. And, for us, we've always had this mindset going back, I would say 8 years ago, 9 years ago, of 1,000 open locations, 1 million members, 10 million workouts in every world market, and $1 billion company. And so that is where we're going, and we're going aggressively at that target.
Do you feel, are there any challenges that you have to overcome in franchise development, or because of the foundational elements that have been laid out, that it's fairly not easy, but because of the assets that you have, it is easier than, say, Nick's boot camp gym?
Yeah, well, the 3 letters obviously will always help, and it's clear that UFC is going nowhere, and it's the youngest fan base of all major sports. So it's, I think it's 39 years old. So, some of them don't have kids yet, or their kids are very young. So their kids are going to be UFC fans. UFC continues to break all their records, whether it's gate records, ticket gate, or whether it's, pay-per-view, which is always amazing to me, with athletes in over 150 countries. And so this is, it's not going anywhere. So that helps. But hey, that doesn't make it easy, to your point. The notoriety is there, but international, I'll speak to that because we obviously we're developing here, and domestically, the fitness industry has definitely had some challenges with COVID, but that's the same way around the globe. And so we're moved away from that, but I think some of the challenges internationally is just the penetration, of fitness goers is extremely small, right? So this is almost new for them. You want to talk about a country like India, where it's like less than 1% penetration, but people are seeing that younger generation really looking for fitness. I actually, right before this call, was on a call with a group that wants to bring us to Turkey, and we were going through all of the pros and all the challenges with the economy. Every day it's fluctuating, and so those are the things that we navigate through with our master territories. But this group from Turkey, they own a company, Sadar, and they've been around since 1892. So they get the landscape. So we have to partner strategically with the right business partner in these countries, because we don't understand the culture and all of that. So those are the kind of the challenges there, to not move too fast and have the right partners in these countries. And then domestically, I think it's just for us, I don't see tons of challenges, but we also are very strategic in who we partner with. We don't grow too fast. We don't have these lofty goals that many franchisors have of, we need 50 units, we need 100 units, we need 200 units. That's not our mindset. Our mindset is, man, we have a powerful brand. We need to partner with the right people.
Is there opportunity for franchise extension? I mean, I know you have different levels of types of investments that you can put into this, but does a smoothie shop come into the play? Does something that's linear eventually get created as a part of the vision for the business?
Yeah, our larger locations currently do have smoothie cafes. We call them arm bar cafes. So we do have that. More grab and go food items and a full line of smoothies. We've also have recently brought in recovery centers to all of our larger locations.
Smart.
Because we're seeing ahead and where that's going to be in 5 years. And so we wanted to be the first at it. So cryotherapy, red light therapy, percussion therapy, infrared, hydro massage beds, obviously the massage tables that you can do, instrument assisted soft tissue mobilization and massage and stretching. So we're definitely bringing that into our space to create this holistic experience that we can have under our roof.
Do you eventually franchise those two concepts as their own concept, or do they have to stay locked with UFC GYM?
As of today, they're locked. We have explored the idea and did a lot of business analysis of having maybe just UFC GYM BJJ studios, or recovery is brand new, so we're definitely not even close to down that road. But it would be a good concept, because I do know quite a bit of individuals that have started kind of their wellness recovery centers, and they're actually doing very, very well, and they're not cheap whatsoever. So that's an interesting model. But our class UFC GYM model was something that's very similar to that question. We created that, and I was a part of that committee in 2017, where it was like, man, we're the best at coaches and classes. Boutique industry is obviously blowing up. Why don't we have that concept? And so we took our two most popular classes, boxing conditioning, and our daily ultimate training class, which is basically a high intensity interval training class, and created class UFC GYM box hit repeat. And so that was based off of kind of a similar question why we created that brand.
Does the demographic of the customer, I mean, my perception would be that it swings heavier male because of the brand. Is that accurate, or is it even male female?
It used to be, as we first started, a heavier focus. It wasn't a focus, but it was a heavier swing to males. But now we're a 50-50 split. Our class boutique is definitely a higher swing to female, 60 to 70% female. Our color scheme is different there too. Light blues, whites, very boutique feel, of course. So that swings a little bit more on the female side, but our UFC gyms and other locations are even 50-50 split.
Yeah, fascinating. So tell me, who's your persona? Who do you want to watch this and say, I'm interested in having a discussion with Ryan?
People that are obviously passionate about fitness, that, most people are great fans of the UFC, but, many aren't. Many realize that we're different. Train different is a trademark, that we use, that, it's not about getting on a treadmill and getting some equipment, doing some free weights and burning a few hundred calories. It's about training different, training like the best trained athletes in the world and burning 600 to 1,200 calories. And so those that want to be in the fitness space, in the fitness industry, you're able to create this unique concept that's different from, all the other players around you. And so you're really competing against yourself. And, we really don't look at competition from that standpoint, because it's definitely a different value proposition. We even have youth programming. And so if you want to be in the fitness space, be with a brand that's going to continue to drive brand awareness, not only domestically, but across the globe, and make a major impact in your community.
Yeah. I mean, look, everything you're saying would connect with me as a buyer. There's a huge advantage of having the brand name associated with it, because ultimately, and I think this is every franchise buyer, they want to be comfortable with the idea that the brand has the tools for them to actually market and go sell to the customer that they're getting in front of. And so for if it's Nick's Boot Camp, there's a lot of lift that goes against it. Automatically, you have carried brand awareness. So to a franchise buyer, check mark, point of differentiation, the product, I can see it automatically with the brand. And from a viewpoint of, look, train like a UFC fighter, you can train without getting into the octagon. and get the health benefits. Right. Right. I mean, you can. And then you look at just go down the pathway of how the buyer looks at a business. They're going to say, how much does it cost to get in, and how much can I make? What does validation look like? What's the vision of the leadership? And you can see everybody's been there, done that on the leadership team. And then where can I open? And as long as I can open in the market that I live in, then it seems like a viable opportunity. Then you go down the chart of looking at anybody in health or wellness. And it could be as much as you're looking at, do I open up a massage business, or do I open up a lash business, or do I open up a gym business? Like, there's so many different layers to this that automatically you should be in that discussion purely based on who you are, what you've done, and going through all the things I just went through. So from where I stand, I see tremendous opportunity. I will say and I like providing this comment. I've always believed that brands don't sell brands, people do. And I like that there's a Dana White quote at the top of the website, but I see huge opportunity for you to lift up your story and lift up your franchisees' stories who've been there. Those are buried. And if you can lift up the human story, which is ultimately what is connecting people in the first place in there, I see it as tremendous opportunity for the business to reward the personas that have already bought in. So
I appreciate that.
Let's just close on this. If one single sentence, why now?
Why now? We're looking to revolutionize the world to train different. We empower the fighting spirit in people, and so our brand is powerful, and it's definitely it's not going anywhere. So the time is now.
I love it. Well, Ryan, I appreciate the conversation. This has been great. For Ryan, I'm Nick. This is another episode of Meet the Zor. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.